Welcome back to Career Talk. I'm Cole Sperry, managing editor over here at Optum Careers. Today, we're going to talk about anxiety and nervousness in an interview. We've all been there before, sitting in the interview chair, sweaty palms, hearts racing, nervous jitters. It can be a racking experience. However, with the right techniques, anyone can learn to tackle their interview anxieties and win over others during job interviews. So here are 10 ways to combat those interview nerves. First, learn how to prepare for interviews efficiently. A little nervousness before an interview is normal, and it can actually sharpen your mind and focus your attention. Focusing that attention on the right preparation will make the difference. When boiled down, there are really only 3 ways to prepare for an interview. You've got 3 options. Option 1, you could try and memorize all the questions they could possibly ask and rehearse your answers. Pick apart the job description, make a list of all the behavioral and situational questions you can think of, and script your answers out. Option 2, focus only on the most challenging questions, memorize those questions and script your answers to those. Or the one that I prefer, option 3, realize that all questions really come down to about 5 main concerns and learn how to prepare for those 5 and address concerns rather than surface level questions that are possible. Now, this only works if we're assuming the interview is with someone who actually has the power to hire you. Those 5 concerns that employers are trying to resolve are essentially these. 1, why are you here? Why are you knocking on our door instead of someone else's? What can you do for us? If we were to hire you, will you help solve our challenges and meet our goals? What relevant skills, knowledge, and experiences do you have to do that? And can you substantiate those claims? By the way, that infamous tell us about yourself question, that's this category. That's this question. This is what they really want to know. Number 3, what kind of person are you? This isn't just will you fit in, but will you inspire others? Will you make it easy for others to work with you? And that question, what is your greatest weakness? That's this one. This is what they're after. 4, what differentiates you from the other 20 people that we're interviewing? What will give us more value for our money? 5, can we afford you? An employer may not ask this outright, but you better believe they're thinking about it the entire time. If you can answer these 5 concerns, it becomes much easier to stop, reflect on what concern the question is trying to answer, and then use what you prepared. Preparing for 5 questions will be much easier than the infinite sea of possible questions you can receive. I mean, there are books with thousands of interview questions written in them and how to answer them. That's not a winning strategy. You won't remember all that. By preparing this way, this will help calm some of your interviewing nerves. Being prepared also includes testing your technology the day before and maybe 10 minutes before. Make sure you know how to get into the video Zoom or Google Meet or whatever they're using. And if you're interviewing on site, maybe drive by the location, scope out the parking. Make sure you're not stressing about these kinds of things. The second way to calm your nerves for an interview, don't cram for the interview. Cramming for your college midterm exam may have worked back then, but it probably won't work so well for your interviews. Winning an interview, if there ever was such a term, is not so much about getting the answers right, but how you hold yourself, how well you communicate your message. Trying to do all this last minute is only going to increase your anxiety level. It will deplete you of that much needed sleep and rest that you're going to need. Unless the interview was scheduled last minute, and if that's the case, you may want to think about what that says about the company and the environment you're stepping into. Prepare the day before and make sure you get plenty of rest the night before the interview. Go for a walk in the morning, listen to some music, maybe read through a few of your notes, but don't cram. If you're prepared well, tell yourself, hey, I'm prepared, and let it go. The third way you could tackle those nerves, shift your perspective on the interview. Oftentimes, we induce extra stress on ourselves by the way we view interviews. Historically, when I talk to people, have been compared to tests or even trials. You are not on trial. You haven't done anything wrong. An interview with a great company should not feel like an interrogation. And this isn't a test. There are no right or wrong answers. And that's why memorizing a bunch of answers isn't the best approach. Interviews are conversations between two or more people trying to figure out how they can help one another. Treat it like this, and some of those interview flutters may just fly away. Stay in the present. Don't worry about the future job offer, and don't expect anything. You're here to meet some people, determine if you get along well, and see where that goes. It is just a conversation. Don't worry about what comes next. Jobs are like buses. If you miss your first bus, there's another one coming 15 minutes later, and eventually they're all going to go to the same place. Think of it this way, and you'll relieve some of those interview nerves. Don't try to impress the interviewer. When we try to impress others, it often backfires. Think of that date you went on back in college when the other person was trying to impress you, so they rambled about themselves for 15 minutes straight. You weren't impressed. You were simply thinking, when will this end? It will either be a fit or it won't. And don't forget, you're also determining if you want to work with these people. Why even waste time trying to impress someone you don't like? Keep in mind, this doesn't mean that you don't prepare well for the interview. Your aim should be to gather information about the other person, the team, the company, and if it seems like a place where you want to work, these are some people that you could get along with, this job tackles some problems that I'm good at solving, then concisely communicate how you can help them solve those problems. It's about solving problems and communicating how you do that, not impressing the other person. This will help you feel a bit calmer. This will help you calm some of those nerves. Limit caffeine and sugar before the interview. The last thing you want to do is pop on a monster beforehand. It won't help. Enough said. Eat well, drink some water, not too much. You don't want to have to be doing the pee-pee dance during your interview. The next one, rethink your fears so you can train your brain. It's important to be grounded in reality, and rethinking our fears so our brains can rationalize them is really, really important here. If you think you're going to perform poorly, you probably will. Instead, tell yourself, I'm nervous, but I'm also well prepared, and I've prepared the best I can. Reframing our thoughts is powerful, and it will help us rationalize, which in turn will reduce that interview anxiety that you might be feeling. Ask for a second opinion or do a mock interview. You've heard the phrase, practice makes perfect. I like to think perfect practice makes perfect. Do a mock interview with other people. Practice that communication, that delivery. Can the other person sense why you're here for this job? Can they tell what skills, experiences, knowledge you bring to the table and how those are relevant to solving the problems that this employer faces? When you made a mistake, could the other person see that mistake? Or is it just in your head? If they did notice it, could they see you pivot? And do they think you regained your ground? Practicing with others will help you feel more confident, and you'll be able to actually see your improvement, which will encourage you instead of fueling your nerves. It'll have the opposite effect. The next one, use the 3-3-3 rule. The 3-3-3 rule is a tactic that Tamar Chomsky, who's a PhD, wrote a book called Freeing Yourself from Anxiety. It's really relevant to interview anxiety as well. It's essentially this. If you're in that interview and you start feeling anxious, because we've all been there, look around. Name 3 things you see, name 3 things you hear, move 3 of your body parts. If you're in an interview and feeling overwhelmed, this could be your strategy. And you don't have to stand up and move around. You could simply rub your ring or move your ankle. Something small. See if it helps. And the last way to help you reduce and combat some of those interview nerves, admit that you are nervous. It's okay to be nervous before, during, and after an interview. Most people are. When you label how you are feeling, you're going to allow yourself to express it, and you may find your nerves decrease simply by acknowledging it. After being in countless interviews as a recruiter and a hiring manager, I've got some news for you. The person sitting across the table from you, the person interviewing you, is most likely just as nervous as you are. They're nervous and anxious about making a mistake, about not uncovering something that may be a problem later, or about not putting their team and company in the best light during the interview. Interview nerves are present in most people on both sides of the table. Acknowledge that it is okay to be nervous. So in summary, the 10 ways that you can combat your interview nerves. Prepare for your interviews efficiently. Don't cram for the interview. Shift your perspective on interviews. Stay in the present and expect nothing. Don't try to impress the interviewer. Limit your caffeine and sugar before the interview. Rethink your interview fears and retrain your brain. Ask for second opinions with mock interviews. Use the 3-3-3 rule to reduce anxiety during an interview, and admit that you're nervous about the interview. If you found this helpful and insightful, like it, share it with a friend, subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to check out optumcareers.com for more job search, interview, and money advice. I'll see you next time.